All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sure. We'll do introductions. We'll start with Dave Schaefer.
Dave Schaefer, Clerk Treasurer for the Town of Munster, past Chair of NIRPC. Tom Schmidt from the Sarah Town Council.
Mary Gordon, NIRPC staff.
Ted Soliday, Governor's Office.
Jim Thomas, Chesterton, Town Council.
Diane Knoll, Watertown, Clerk Treasurer.
Dave Hollenbeck, Attorney for NIRPC.
Jeff Benson, Town of Beverly Shores. I wanted to be like Dave. He used to have one of these.
That's right. Ty Warner, Executive Director.
I would have sold you one.
Karen Freeman Wilson, Mayor of Gary, Indiana.
George Topple, Greenwood Township Trustee, Greenwood Township.
Justin Keel, Lacrosse Town Council.
Mark Prince, Mayor of the Board.
Rick Powers, Deputy Commissioner in the 4th District.
Mary Callis, the Town of Dyer.
Great. We'll go in the cheap seats too.
So my name is Jay Rolliger. I'm with FIG Engineers. Terry Pelican with United Bridge Partners.
Jim Nowacki, resident of the city of Gary.
Oh, Maria Stava, the CEO of NIRPC.
Kathy Luther, NIRPC Tuesday.
United President NIRPC.
Adam Parkhouse and guy. And actually not.
Tim's over close to you.
Steel Cut. Scott Weber, NIRPC staff.
Claire Joe, NIRPC staff.
Carl Liston, South Shore Clean Cities.
Nina Zephyr, NIRPC staff.
Peter Kimball, Emergency Staff.
Tom Jeffers, NIRPC staff.
Trey West with Nurses Staff.
Great. Cameraman, you're not going to introduce yourself. Okay. Next is public comment, and we have one that is signed up. Jim Nowacki.
Yes. Good morning, Robert Timer.
Great. Thanks.
So we'll be, good morning, commissioners. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary, Indiana. I attended the last meeting of the Gary Sanitary District. At that meeting, it was announced that the INDOT has budgeted $260,000 to address the issue caused by the negligence of the Reith Riley Paving Company and the negligence of INDOT to supervise the work on the Route 1220 project. The negligence by the contractor and by the state caused flooding along the south curb of 5th Avenue, several blocks on either side of Broadway. This flooding in instances would cover an entire lane of traffic and created a tremendous hazard for the driving public. We say time to face the common threat of deadly roads. One of the problems that we have with accidents is negligence by the state to maintain the roads. The flooding that was caused by the negligence of the state and the contractor also caused premature aging of the roadway. You see potholes and the graveling, the surface being gravel, and just coming back to repair the damage caused by allowing the silt to fill the sewers to such a degree that they cannot be cleaned. They have to actually be torn out and replaced. So that's significant. But the real problem is this, that although the state has embedded on these projects engineers to check to make sure all of the work is being done according to specification and standards, if they ignore their responsibilities and allow contractors to put in substandard work, the real problem is that now $260,000 that can be used in any of your communities. Any of your communities. You need roads done, you need sidewalks replaced, you need infrastructure. This $260,000, it cannot be used for those purposes. Instead, it's being used to correct the error of the contractor and the state's negligence. So we should all be upset that this money was wasted, that the contractor got off scot-free, because once we accept those roads, it's our responsibility. So we wasted money on the embedded engineers, and now we wasted money replacing the negligent work. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for using your time. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. They were sent out electronically. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Next presentation, update on the Klein Avenue Bridge. Thank you for postponing this from the last meeting to this one. We appreciate it. Terry Delegate.
You're welcome. Well, while Terry's working his way up, if I could, I don't know if you saw the issue of in business, but as you're also getting, it's not the under 40 issue, it's the professionals to watch. So that's a great compliment. But as you watch him this morning, he is a professional to watch.
Yeah, well, thank you. I actually got an email that they were going to announce that at the under 40, and I misread the email, and I wanted to respond and say, I'm not under 40. On behalf of myself and Jay Rollator, he's the project manager of the Klein Avenue Bridge. We appreciate that you allow us to show you the updates in construction and the impact of the Klein Avenue Bridge. My name is Terry Belligan. I'm the general manager of operations for Klein Avenue Bridge. I grew up in Lake County. I moved away for a while. I'm back. I've been back for about 18 years. I live in East Chicago. So this is, as I said before, it's such a personal project for me. So I'm proud to be part of this project, and I know that I saw the bridge go up, and fortunately I saw the aftermath of the bridge coming down as well, and the impact. I understand that, because I drove over that bridge almost every day. So with that being said, I'll have Jay introduce himself as well, and we'll go through our presentation. It's about a 15 to 20 minute presentation, and we will give about 10 minutes, 20 minutes? I'll probably go a little bit longer. Okay, and we'll give enough time for questions, because that's one of our purposes, is to give you enough information that you have some questions about the bridge. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. So, as he said, my name is Jay. I'm the project manager for what we call State Bridge Builders. I'm going to run through this presentation. I have a lot of slides, so I might go a little bit faster. And start out with, Terry works for a company that's called United Bridge Partners. He will be here as the general manager for the bridge through operations for some time.
Yeah.
But the whole project is underneath that umbrella of United Bridge Partners. And as you see here, there's a couple of partners that are underneath that. American Infrastructure Funds is actually the funding group that's a part of funding this particular project. They fund a lot of infrastructure projects around the country. Ourselves, as FIG, we're an engineering company that has been involved as the engineer procure contractor for this project. So we've been in business for close to 40 years, and we have a family of companies. We are Big Bridge Engineers. We have an arm that we call Big Bridge Inspection. We have an arm that we call Big Bridge Managers. So after this is in operations, our Big Bridge Manager group will be the ones that are camped out for snow removal and upkeep and inspections of the project. And we also have Big Bridge Developers. So I represent Big Bridge Builders, which is an arm that we set up to do these kind of projects. We've been in business for a long time. One of our prides is that we're able to bring awards to the folks that we work for. We have close to 400 awards that we've received, that our customers have received. Includes 3 that you see right here that were issued by the National Endowment of the Arts for some of the aesthetics for those projects. Sunshine Skyway in Florida, the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina, and the Massachusetts Parkway that's in Tennessee International. The types of bridges that we work on are cross-section that you see here. rail bridges, arches, long bridges over water, long span bridges, and cable stay bridges, bridges in urban environments, and bridges in environmentally sensitive areas. So you see there a bridge in North Carolina. You see our cable stay bridge that's actually in Virginia. We have a number of cable stays around. The most recent one that we're working on is 1,660-foot span, which is in Corpus Christi, Texas. So we've done a lot of bridges around the country that are really kind of this type of niche, if you will. So I'm going to start this story for Klein here, because Klein's actually the second project of this delivery type. The first project that we did was the South Norfolk Jordan Bridge, which is in Chesapeake, Virginia. It traverses between Chesapeake and Portsmouth, two cities there in Virginia, right next to the U.S. Shipyard. It was also 100% privately funded through United Bridge Partners. It's a situation where they had an existing bridge. The city of Chesapeake owned that bridge. It was functionally obsolete. They had to close it. They had no money to demolish it or replace it in that case. So United Bridge Partners came in with us as the engineering procure contractor. They basically bought the project, and with that came the responsibility of demolishing the existing bridge and then replacing that. So that bridge is on the order of a 5,400-foot long bridge, 385-foot main span, 145-foot vertical clearance. There's a lot of large ships that go through that particular crossing. When we take these projects on, as you can see from the fact that we like for our customers to receive awards, we like to do something that's going to be aesthetically pleasing and beautiful for the area. So we do pay attention to the landscaping, particularly around the entrances to the facility, and we'll do the same thing here. It is open road tolling, so there is no toll collectors. You'll go underneath the gantry, and all those operations will be set up for that. Again, we pride ourselves on working with the community, so we have a whole lot of outreach events and things that we do with the community. Terry will be doing a lot of that here. And things like runs that we do, we've done across the bridge in Chesapeake yearly. We have 4% grades on that bridge, so the fire departments there actually like to use that as their training mountain, if you will, in the area for their employees. But we really try to connect with the community. This particular visual here gives you a good feel for all the different businesses that made a commitment to grow their business or set up their business there, or even in one case here with the city of Chesapeake, they chose to put a really nice park underneath where the bridge is. This particular crossing, once it was announced that we were going to be putting it in and replacing it, it opened up a lot of economic development there.
And so we're expecting the same thing to happen with the Klein Avenue Bridge. Ironically, just 2 days ago, I got a call from a company out of Illinois that was looking at purchasing some property in and around the bridge in Chicago to move from Illinois. And what they wanted to know is when the bridge was going to be put up. And I told him January 2020. And he said to me that their moving is actually predicated on that bridge. So it's a good start, and it's a good understanding that people in the other communities, Illinois, surrounding Lake County, are looking at the bridge and seeing how the positive impact will help them as well.
So there's a precedence from having seen that happen in another community, and we anticipate and already seeing that will happen. The United Bridge Partners has won awards for their commitment to the community and their immersion in the community, which leads us to the Klein Avenue Bridge, which is why we're here to talk about. So that was the very first private bridge that we did. Klein is the second project that United Bridge Partners is doing. This is the plan view of the alignment itself. What you see highlighted there in blue, kind of to the left, is the replacement structure. The previous structure was actually demolished by the Indiana DOT, so we came in to a site where we weren't taking on the obligation of removing that bridge, but we are building the replacement. What you see highlighted in red, outlined to the right, that's an existing steel bridge that we're actually tying into, and we're doing some rehabilitation work on that right now to bring that up to standards for the opening.
So the east abutment, which Jay is talking about, if you give you a reference, is kind of right at the Ameristar Chicago Marina. So right in that area.
And so then you see Riley Road there on the west, and that's where our gantry will be, or tolling will be on the west side of the project. You also see the star there that represents the operations center. We built our office there already. And for anybody that wants to come for a tour, that's where you can come and check in with us, and we'd love to share our site with you. So our project is around 6,200 foot long. We have a 316 foot long main span. It's a 200 foot horizontal and 100 foot vertical clearance. Those are coordinated with the Coast Guard. Basically, we're replacing in kind the clearance envelope that was there before.
And if you see in the front here on this table, that's a model of actually that slide. So you can see what the bridge is going to look like over the canal. And to the west of that is the 3D printing of a column and a segment. So it gives you a good representation of what it actually is.
So one of the benefits that this project will bring will be economic development. Over 300 jobs during construction using local labor, local materials, built in 30 months, and improves transportation for Northwest Indiana. That's a critical link that will be reestablished. It's a beautiful bridge. We've taken pride in trying to design it that way. There'll be no local, state, or federal money for the new bridge, and East Chicago is going to receive 10 cents on every car toll that's paid for the project. So here's just a series of renderings that we put together, just to give you a sense of what it should look like. Looking east, if we were standing on Riley Road, looking west over the canal, and then looking west towards the canal. Of course, nobody really had that viewpoint. That's an aerial viewpoint. But zooming in on that, this gives you a sense of what we're building initially is one lane of traffic in each direction, so two 12-foot lanes with 9-foot shoulders. And then a night view, we will have some aesthetic lighting that we're going to apply to the project.
Could you go back to that last slide?
Yes. The last slide, Jane. This one?
Yeah. That's one lane each direction, right?
Yes. Yes.
So this might get to your point a little bit here. This is the initial build, which is that one bridge with one lane each direction. We do have a right-of-way, and we're set up for if the traffic counts would justify it at some point, where we would twin that structure. So just talking about a little bit of bridge terminology, just going to show you some pictures of our construction, just so we're all on the same page. Superstructure is the horizontal girders, if you will, in a bridge. Substructure is everything that's below that. So the columns, the footings, the supports that we put down on the ground, piles in this case, that's all called substructure. We also kind of mix terms sometimes. We'll hear us talk about bridge piers, bridge columns, bridge vents. That's kind of the same terminology, so just so you don't get confused by using those terms. We also have the main span, which is that 316-foot span over the canal, and then we call it all of our approach spans that lead up to that particular ramp, which is in your model on the front. So that's the main span that you see in the model. Just some by the numbers for the project. Total project length, 1.85 miles. The new bridge length is about 1.2 miles. Number of spans, 29. Average span length, about 212. Main span length, 316. We matched the Coast Guard clearances of 100 foot vertical and 200 horizontal. So with those 28 piers, our tallest pier is around 86 feet. Our shortest pier is about 24 feet. And if you go out there right now, you'll see all the piers, and you can basically stitch together what our alignment's going to look like because we have our piers in place. So superstructure is a technique that we use called precast concrete superstructure. In this case, a precast box girder. That box girder is what Terry was mentioning. You see there on the table there, that cross-section of the superstructure is a box girder shape. And we use post-tensioning tendons after we've erected these in segments. So the segments are on the order of 10 foot long. As you drive along the length of the bridge, you're going to have those segments in 10 foot lengths. We're precasting those right now. That's the beauty of this type of a project, is because we can be building our superstructure at the same time we're putting our substructure in. In current operations, it shortens the time frame. We'll also, the erection will go fast, so we get a lot of benefit in schedule and therefore cost by the way this structure goes.
Yes.
I know enough about the old bridge to be dangerous, okay? I know the old bridge was similar design, and it had, you build it together, and then you have the cables inside, and the cables pull together, and make it one rigid structure, right?
Correct.
And then under the old bridge, part of our problem was those cables deteriorated because of the weather, I was told. And basically, all we had was the bridge being held together with no tension pulling it together anymore. And then, I don't know anything, I'm not an engineer, but I look at this and it looks very similar. I'm sure it's not, but I was just wondering.
Sure, so the answer is going to be that it's not.
But good question.
It is a good question, and it's an obvious question. So the bridge that was built before was called cast in place concrete, if you will. This is a precast structure. We are using post-tensioning tendons, and I would just say this: the technology from the time that project was built to the time today that we're doing this project is vastly different as far as the way that we protect tendons, the way that we protect our materials, and it's no reflection necessarily on the times. It's unfortunate, but our science has improved and benefited over just the 30 years or so since that was accomplished. And you got to remember, this type of technology started about 1980 in our country, maybe a little bit earlier, but primarily about 1980. So, like any industry, you're going to evolve, you're going to improve your certifications, you're going to improve your inspection techniques, and that has happened in the industry.
One of the things I want to mention on that note too, Jay says we take a lot better care of our materials and everything. That's from not only the manufacturer all the way to the site. So a lot of stuff is covered, a lot of stuff is coated, a lot of stuff is inspected at the manufacturer, on the transport, and also at the site. So once it reaches the site, it's also well taken care of to that point. So it's not just left out into the air or exposure.
So for ourselves, we've been doing these projects. We have projects that go back to 1978. So we have a number of these projects around the country in northern environments. We actually started in the south of our country with building these projects, but we've migrated to the north. Techniques have improved as we move to the north, and we have a host of history now that we can point to for where these bridges are. I've been doing these bridges myself for close to 30 years, so I can personally point to a number of them that I've worked on that are around the country. It's a good question,
And the risk is on you anyway. If you put up a bad bridge, it's your bridge.
Correct. Right. We own the bridge. We construct the bridge. We oversight the bridge. We maintain the bridge.
Yes, so do you have a lifetime span on it?
a lifetime span.
I mean, as far as, and my next question is, how often do you come back and inspect it?
Good question.
Sure.
We are building the bridge to last 150 years.
Wow.
So the inspection fig will be the inspectors, and it'll be a yearly inspection with a daily physical site inspection.
Right.
So we'll have someone driving the bridge every day to look at it, and then we'll have a yearly bridge inspection.
And part of the advantage that we have, if you want to call it an advantage, is that we have this one structure, right? We don't have necessarily the obligation that an NDOT has where they have so many miles of roadway. We're focused on that particular crossing and that particular 6,200 feet of project. So we'll be all over it every day and be observing and being on top of things as we can, because we only have that small part that we have to pay attention to. We are coordinating with Indiana DOT as far as our connections and how all that plays out. So, talking about the structure itself, precast segmental, post-tension tendons, just to give you a sense of what those tendons are. Our tendons will be 19-strand tendons, so one tendon has 19 strands in it. Those strands are on the order of a ½ inch in diameter. When we go to stress, one of those tendons will put a jack on it that pulls that tendon. That steel is 270 KSI. If you think about the steel that's in your sidewalk or a driveway, that's 60 KSI steel. So order of magnitude of 4 times stronger steel we're using, high-strength steel for these tendons. We'll stretch that steel on the order of about a foot when we jack it, and then we'll lock it in. So if you've ever, I like to put it this way, if you've ever gone to the exercise of squeezing the books on your bookshelf and moving them somewhere else to another shelf, we're doing that super high-tech with some very significant forces. And that's for each one of those tenants. And as you can see, we'll have a series of tenants that are used, so there's a lot of redundancy because we have so many additional tenants that are used to make up that span. So our segments themselves, like I said, are on the order of 10 foot long, 12 foot tall, close to 46 foot wide. They're impressive. Come out for a tour and you look at a segment. They weigh anywhere from 60 tons to 90 tons per segment. And we're going to take those, and we have 685 segments that are going to make up the entire length of our project. And that's what we're precasting in the yard right now. So just to give you a sense of how the balanced cantilever works, there's a couple different ways that you can erect these bridges. We've selected for this project the balanced cantilever technique. Where our piers are, we set a pier segment on top of it. So just imagine on the table there, that column is one column. We take and set our pier segments on top. Those pier segments won't look like that. That's a typical section with a hollow in it. Our pier sections will have a solid diaphragm inside with an opening that you can pass through, but that's where all the load is coming through and going down in the column. So we'll set our pier segments. Then we start hanging a segment either side of that. That's why we call it balanced cantilever, until we've built out those cantilevers. We'll go to the next pier, we'll do the exact same thing. When we get those to match up close to each other, we'll pour a closure pour between them and then stress tendons across that opening to lock that together and provide some continuity tendons in addition to that. And we'll do that repetitively for all 28 cantilevers that we have on the project. So it'll be an interesting sight to see. People are always wondering, well, are you going to be able to match those cantilevers up? And there's always an article that shows up in a newspaper somewhere. The answer is we've done it many times, and yes, it will match up. And then we have our complete spans. So some of the real life experience here, we started the groundbreaking in May of 2016. People may not have noticed much going on. The lesson we learned from our previous project is that one of the first things that we should do as an operations is build our office building that will be there for operations. Our last project, we actually moved double wides in. That was our construction trailers, and then it turned out being the operations center when we got started after we opened it to traffic, and we found that's not the best thing to do. So we this time built our operations center first. We're actually using that as our construction trailers, the nicest construction trailers you could ever imagine in the world, and we're trying to take care of it. Okay?
Yeah, great.
And anyway, that's where if anybody came to visit us, you would come to that location on Riley Road, and we'd be glad to give a tour. But we have our office building in place. So we had 63 local workers that worked on that. So you can see we are having an economic impact already with construction. It currently seats 14 of us that are working on construction in Terry, and we will eventually do some landscaping around that area also in Malta. And that's where people would go. They have easy pass needs, and buy an easy pass, what have you, have to deal with their accounts or what have you, or for a tour. And we have a conference room there also, so very easy to use that conference room for community events and what have you. Safety is very important to us on the project. We've created our own safety symbol, if you will, and this we actually created with our workers because we wanted them engaged in that whole philosophy of safety on our project. So we work every day on that, try to always constantly improve and come up with ideas of how can we be safe on the project. We have a full-time safety manager in our union labor force that we're using out there is well trained, and we have no reportable injuries and no lost time accidents. Here you can kind of see the makeup of our team. Big Bridge Builders, which is who I work for. We set up a separate company called Klein Precast. That's actually who's doing the precasting in the building out there. Kenny, which is now a grant company, but a long-term company in this part of the world, is a sub to us. They basically did all of our substructure for us. And then we have Mid-States and Rich Construction, which are another couple local companies that are helping us with all of the labor that we're using for the project. Our casting yard construction activities, our first segment was cast in December of 2017. We started with our pier segments. Those segments actually aren't in the building. That particular bed, we started outdoors. There's only 28 times 2 because they're half segments for our piers that we're going to do, so that's not the larger number of segments on the job. We knew we could set up that bed and get those done and and we're well along with those. We have about 170 segments, actually even a little more than that now. So we're on the order of pushing 30% down with the casting of our superstructure.
So Jay is saying about the casting, or that building that we're looking at was erected specifically just to make the segments. So we could, weather was not an issue. So
we'll continue casting through the winter. And this was our pier segment as we got started back in December.
You showed that side. So to the right, you see way to the right, Jay was saying about these segments that go on top of the columns essentially. That's one of the segments.
Right, so you see the diaphragm inside. And the molds that we have, the formwork, the cages are pre-tied, so that that helps us with our turnover of our project. We're using buckets to load our concrete. Concrete's local, it's coming from Smith Ready Mix, so again, another example of investing in the local economy. We have a travel lift on the site that's handling our 60 to 90 ton segments to move them into storage. And this is our building, which was, like Terry said, placed just for this project, an 82-foot wide by 300-foot long by a very tall building with casting cells inside, you'll see here. So these are our casting cells, and we do what's called a match casting operation. So we'll cast the segment in each of the 3 beds that are in the building every day, and they're match cast against the segment that was cast the day before. So we get our geometry control for our project. You can imagine when you drive across a bridge, you have a vertical profile that you're driving across. But also when you go around curves, have some super elevation that's built into that alignment. So also when you build any kind of girders, the dead load of that girder has a tendency to deflect it, and you design for that. You count on that. So all that geometry we've calculated, and each of these segments, we know the relationship to each of them, so that when they go together, that's going to be their final geometry. So when we cast this segment, this was the segment that was cast the day before. We move it out, it's in the match cast position. I'm going to cast this segment today, which is in what we call a wet cast position. I take this segment that was cast the day before, and I rotate it this way and this way, according to the calculations that we have. And that's what's going to give me my final shape as I take all these and put them together in its final position. So we've cast all of our geometry in, and we're only as good as the attention that we pay here to our geometry control. Each of those segments is basically a chord through the alignment. But if you look at it when it's all said and done, to the human eye, it's going to look like a smooth curve, but we've actually chorded each of those segments in the way that we cast them. So a lot of effort goes into the planning and the precasting. Here's a segment that's in its match cast position. That was the segment cast the day before. Some of the core form with the reinforcing bars in it, tendons in it. Placing the concrete, we have our masons that are out there every day finishing our concrete for those segments. That's 10 foot in length, basically by about 46 foot wide. And then the segments are rolled out of the building, and the shuttle lift will come and take that segment and take it to storage. And that's an older picture. Now we have a whole lot more segments than that right now.
170 plus.
Yes. So let's look at some of the real pictures. We started out with driving piles. These are 16-foot diameter steel pipe piles. They go about 100 foot in the ground. They have a hammer that sits on top and just basically caveman style drives them into the ground. We drive the piles in. They're down to grade at that point. We place the reinforcing for the footing. Footing's going to take the loads and distribute those to each of those piles. We pour those footings, and we tie the column steel, put the forms on for the columns, and then pump the concrete in for those. So this is all called cast-in-place construction. This is on-site cast-in-place versus the precast that we're talking about that we're doing in the building for our superstructure. We have a pier cap. Because we use that box girder, it brings the loads down in a smaller footprint underneath where it has to engage the pier. We have a pier cap that then takes that and shapes that into a much more elegant column. But we are able, because of the box girder, to optimize the dimensions of our substructure. And we do have railroads at the east end and the west end of the project, so we're doing a lot of coordination with the railroads as far as flagging and working around their facilities. That's just a view of the columns that you would see out there today, in case you can follow them and know what our alignments can proceed. We pride ourselves on trying to be open to the community, and we're going to invite the community out, probably on some Saturdays, to come out, and we can share with them what we're doing, and they can visually see it. A lot of us are visual people. We have to see something to really understand it. And particularly for little people, it's fun to get them engaged and maybe get them excited and interested maybe in engineering and science, those kind of things, because they saw some cool projects. So we have a signing event where we let families sign inside of our segments, and they know that their name's going to be inside that bridge forever. You can tell their grandkids, I signed the inside of that bridge. We've done that a lot of places as well.
Kind of like planting a tree.
Right. So we'll do that here, and that'll be a lot of fun. And essentially that's what we had to share.
So at this time, if you have any questions, we're open. Any questions?
So you have a date of January 2020?
Yes, completion
You
January.
couldn't open this in the spring or the summer?
We'd love to. We were kind of at the mercy of when we had to start. We would have rather planned it out like you're saying.
Mayor?
Yeah, I want to start off and say, I think it's great that you guys are local, including Terry. I think that's a really good move. And I think Terry's doing a great job too. I just wanted to start off before I asked the question. I think it's really cool. When we were talking, because before this went down, we had 2 lanes in each direction. And I know the traffic counts because we measured them. There were 30,000 cars a day. And you said if the traffic counts justify, we're going to build the second bridge basically, right? And obviously we all want to see the second bridge built because we want what we had before, even if we had to pay a toll. But what are the traffic counts you're looking at specifically?
We're initially starting out at 10,000 a day.
So if we get 10,000 cars a day, you guys could start moving forward?
Well, no, that's what we're anticipating we're going to hit. We're looking up, and for a second structure, probably 20 to 25,000.
If we had 25,000 cars a day, would there be traffic backups there? Because we used to have 4 lanes at 30,000.
So really, you've hit on the key element. The traffic revenue studies have been done to justify this project right now, justify a increase to 10,000. And there will be monitoring of the traffic because the marketplace speaks, right? So if you start to get back up of traffic, people are going a different direction. That will drive the market-based decision to, we need to build a second one because we want to keep the traffic coming to our facility. So it will be triggered as soon as that's seen.
And that's a good point. That, as Jay said, that's a good indicator that we better start looking at a second.
So it gets back to its old strength.
But you hit the key right there with observing.
Thank you.
Yes. George.
For a number of years, about 10 years, I drove Klein all the way through Calumet College. One of the problems that I saw was the feeder line going into that road where it's spanned. Very difficult, sometimes very treacherous, especially during bad weather. Is there any plans in the future? I know it's outside of your purview to improve that road south, heading north into
I might help out a little bit in saying that I drive in from Pine Avenue coming from the east, and you guys are already doing some bridge improvements there on that side.
I was saying we're working with approaches around where we are project.
Charles had his hand.
Well,
I was just going to say that in 2023, NDOT has a project to rehab Pine Avenue up to your bridge. I know that because I put it together at the tip. I just did that one yesterday, that project. So they are planning on rehabbing Pine Avenue in 2023. Thank you.
I would just like to say this is the Reader's Digest version of this. On September 28th, the 19 municipalities are all invited, and anybody else that wants to come to 16 Plus at 9 a.m. in the Cherville Town Hall, they will be doing a full-blown presentation there, and we'll spend an hour to an hour and 15 minutes there.
Appreciate it.
I noticed that that portion of the bridge runs through East Chicago's Opportunity Zone. Are you guys contemplating the use of that benefit as you look at the long-term financing of this? Yes, we've already talked with the mayor about it, so we're in communication how we benefit both obviously the project and obviously East Chicago.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I guess I got one more question on the construction, Terry.
Yes.
Would it be terribly more expensive if you decide to add the addition to the bridge than not doing it?
Well, we've already factored that in, and Jake could lend a little bit of insight to that too. So our plan is that we plan to build a second one, it's just traffic counts and other factors, other factors that fall into that. So it's already in the plans, it's already kind of budgeted to look at that.
And the room to do it is still there.
Yes, absolutely. If you can see on the model, in front, there's a couple, I would call them pads or footings, but it's already planned where the second section structure is going to go.
Essentially, it's going in the same footprint as what was there before.
Anybody else?
I didn't catch, what's the plans for the building once the bridge is completed? Will that remain?
That's to be determined.
Right.
It's, we need to get through the project first, and then it's an asset that's there.
Yeah.
We'll have to decide what to do with it.
Yeah, Ty's talking specifically about the casting building that we're casting the segments, not the office building.
Sounds like you're gonna have to start the second thing, but when you're done with the second, then what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you. And if you guys have any questions, if you have any other questions or want to ever tour the site, this is our website, our web address. And I've provided Kathy and Ty and everybody else with some business cards and some brochures. If you have any questions, give me a call. And if it's a technical question, I'll give it to Jay.
Thank you very much, and thanks again for moving it to today.
I appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is the report of the executive director. Ty?
Well, thank you. Let me try to cover just a few quick things, and I'll start off first of all because Heather Ennis is here from the Northwest Indiana Forum. So wanted to acknowledge the event that took place last week for the launching of the strategic plan for regional economic development, or Ignite the Region, that a lot of us have been involved in, and that you received a very brief presentation on at the commission meeting last time from TIP Consultants Theory and Practice, not to be confused with our Transportation Improvement Program. So when TIP was here, they gave you an overview of where that was all headed, and that document was released last week. So it's available on the forum's website, so you can look at it in detail. And I just wanted to say, we were on a panel with other regional folks at the end of that, and so had the opportunity to talk about where we all fit into this plan. If you go through this plan and look for the references for NIRPC specifically, but all the regional organizations that are involved in Northwest Indiana, there are things here that are direct initiatives that we had done out of the 2040 plan and other planning efforts, but the huge benefit of all the work that was put into this document is that it aligns those efforts with other regional initiatives throughout the region, as well as introduce some new things of where we ought to go. So it's like everything is neatly packaged and put together to all get behind and move forward. So just to say that I'm excited about what's in here. Just as a little bit of a teaser, I guess I'd say one of the issues that the TIP consultants really picked up on is the need to close the loop on this economic development district designation, which we are working very strongly to do. And that's put in here as a prime, one of the big goals within this plan is to close that so that we have opportunities for funding that we didn't have before. So I would encourage you, if you were not able to be at the launch and did not see this document yet, I just want to put a plug for it. We are 100% behind moving forward with what's in here. So Heather, great work on completing it and getting it to this point. So That's the first thing. Anything you want to comment on? I don't want to put you on the...
No, I thank you for your time and energy, and I thank your board for allowing you to participate in this. I think municipal participation as well as the local economic development, other regional groups participating. We had over 490 folks that gave input to the plan and face-to-face roundtable meetings, hosted over 50 different roundtable initiatives. Again, came out and talked to your group last month, but we didn't get to everybody. Obviously, it's a 7-month process, but this is a starting point. It's a living, breathing document. It will continue to evolve. There will be some things within the next year that we decide, hey, this was a great initiative, but maybe it needs to be pushed 2 years down the road. We're doing an implementation workshop in October to really define who's going to pick up what pieces. But we had committed, and the other regional partners have committed, to an annual report out to say what type of progress we've made, where we're moving forward, where we still have work to be done. So I'm excited about that this gives us a brand new platform for cooperation and kind of the way we do business here in Northwest Indiana with the regional groups and being better aligned. So I'm excited about it, and obviously it took a lot of people, a lot of hard work and effort to get this done. So it didn't happen in a vacuum. So thank you again for participating, and we are excited about things.
Thanks so much, Heather. One of the other things that has come out of this concurrently and is reflected in the plan that's related to the Economic Development Administration, not specifically to the ED, but related, is that we will be hosting a Regional Economic Development Summit, which is a specific construct from the EDA, on November 14th in this room. We'll be nailing down details and confirming everything. But the idea of that is that the EDA brings other federal partners to the table, and it's like a reverse, as I understand it, a reverse funding situation, where the partners come into the room in response to projects that we want to do in the region that we can point to out of this document. And the other federal partners then figure out, here's the programs that may be able to help with that particular project. So instead of just announcing, here's a program you may want to take advantage of, and then you trying to figure out whether it meets your needs or not, they will be at the table to be able to match programs to projects that the region wants to do. So a really positive step. So that's coming up in November. A couple of other quick things. I obviously can't see behind this wall, so I don't know what's been going on behind here, but there are 300 trees that have been delivered under the community. Have they been going back and forth?
Yeah.
That's great. It's like, isn't that, what was it, Wizard of Oz, or what was that, when the trees are all moving? Again, great program. I think a lot of your communities have benefited from that already, the U.S. Forest Service program. There'll also be a workshop on October 19th about trees and tree ordinances, and how your communities can help make sure that you have your ordinances tweaked in place to take advantage of the trees that are provided and other trees you want to provide in your community. So I think those notices have been going out. If they haven't gone to you, we'll make sure that it gets distributed to the whole commission so that you can take advantage of that. The other thing I wanted to draw attention to is Kevin Brightsky, who unfortunately the KRBC was also having a meeting this morning, so he had to be there. But he asked that we draw attention to the Times editorial and the piece that you saw, if you saw in the Times last weekend, about traffic deaths in the region, which is, of course, is serious and tragic for everyone. I thought it was worth saying just something about that, and I think Kevin did too, just because obviously we deal with mobility throughout this region, and any death on the roadways is tragic. So just two things I wanted to comment on, other than encouraging you to read that piece, of course. One is that as the Times did their study and assembled traffic death statistics, obviously it's correlated to areas of congestion. And so in some ways needs to be normalized for those kind of stats and where they are in the region. Which is why, as we're all about, and as you have been about on this commission, trying to find means to reduce traffic congestion throughout Northwest Indiana. That's a big part of what we do. There's the obvious aspect of trying to provide more ways to be able to get across the region so areas are not as congested. But it's also why we spend so much time in our planning efforts to developing alternative means of transportation, and through things like the Livable Communities program, avenues to try to increase walkability and livability with all the big push with TOD development throughout the region with the train. That's a big thing that we're after. If you don't have to get into the vehicle, then of course that removes one opportunity for an accident to occur. We have safety measures we have to, and performance measures we have to meet through federal regulations with safety targets, which INDOT, of course, we work with on those. And so it's a very important issue and a very serious issue, and I just wanted to remind you of the correlation between the work that the Times did and why we do what we do here at NIRPC to try to reduce that. And that's, I believe that's all I have. Other than, I guess the last thing I'll say is we've been distributing these greenways and blueways maps, which are still somewhat smelling hot off the presses across the region. And if you did not get some copies, we have copies here that you're welcome to take back with you and help get the word out about our blueways, ways that we can paddle as well as walk all across Northwest Indiana.
Great, thank you. Next is report of the chair, Jeff Benson. Done. Next is Finance and Personnel Committee. Jim Dunn, it says your name on it.
No, I'm actually the Technical Planning Committee report.
Okay, hi. George?
I've been sure I'd be doing that one.
You did.
Yeah, that's my fault.
All right.
Jeff is dutifully following my.
He did, he could help.
I know, really. Okay.
Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning to review the financial status, reconciliations, expenses, and approval of the claims register, which we did. Maria Stava will talk about the procurement.
Good morning. We have three procurements. We are seeking your approval. There are 9 buses to be replaced for our sub-recipients. The City of Lawrenceville, Fulton County Aging Community Services, and the East Chicago Transit. The buses are funded 80 or 85% from the federal funds. Our sub-recipients already provide their share of 15 or 20% for those buses. I think that's all. So if those approval will start process of the procurement line of those buses.
We have a recommendation from the Financial and Personnel Committee to the board for approval.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Thank you.
You bet.
Next item on the agenda is Kathy Luther for the South Shore Clean City.
Thank you. Good morning. Many of you may be aware that we have a existing contract with South Shore Clean Cities to do fleet education from our CMED Public Education funding, which is the Green Fleet program, which many of you participate in. Last July, my environmental educator that does our general public education left us for Bloomington, Indiana. And so I have requested to amend their contract with additional funding for them to undertake some of her responsibilities for the balance of 2018. So the contract amendment is for $30,000. That is a 80-20 money, and the South Shore Clean Cities does provide their own match for that. And that's my question. And so the Finance and Personnel Committee recommended that contract amendment for your approval. The agenda does say pending attorney review, but the document in your packet is the attorney revised version. So that is the one we would ask for your support of today.
The motion to approve
Carl Lissick is here today, so.
Is there a second? Sure.
Second.
Second, okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Tells me you don't have to go far. Does that conclude your report?
That concludes the report. Are there any questions? No.
Next on the agenda is the Environmental Management Policy Committee. Kathy Luther, you have a resolution for us?
Yes, thank you. For Resolution 1815, is a resolution you may recall we've actually, EMPC has requested the Commission to adopt this resolution in the past several years. This week, actually right now, we are in the middle of National Septic Smart Week. We have a lot of septic users in our region, and this is the week where we put out a lot more education about how to maintain your septic system to protect our region's waterways. So the EMPC would recommend and request your support for adoption of Resolution 1815 to recognize Septic Smart Week.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Did I hear a second? Second, great. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great, thank you.
If I might make a small announcement, EMPC on October 4th, we are having representatives from U.S. Environmental Protection Agency come to our meeting. They are beginning to develop a sub-area contingency plan for environmental emergencies. I've already extended invitations to the county emergency planners for each of the 3 counties to participate in the meeting. But they're going to ask for our input on communication and regional cooperation on emergency response to environmental emergencies. So if you would like to pass that information along to your your leadership in your community, we'd love to have them attend. Our meeting will start at 8:30 with some NIRPC business, and then the portion with the federal EPA representatives will start at 9:30.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is Technical Planning Committee. Now, Jim Tom.
Yes, this is Kevin Brightsky giving the Vice Chair report for the Technical Planning Committee. The Technical Planning Committee met on Tuesday, September 11th. During the meeting, staff presented on the draft performance-based planning framework for the 2050 plan and received feedback from the committee. The presentation was posted on the NIRPC website along with the executive board materials. Scott Weber is here and can answer questions if there are any about this framework. Okay. Well, he was here.
He's here.
There he is. Come on up. Any questions for Scott?
I don't think so.
No questions? Okay. All right, we don't need action on that, so there being no questions, I'll go ahead. Staff also presented on the draft programmatic investment approach for the 2050 plan and the 2020 to 2024 Transportation Improvement Program and received feedback from the committee. This presentation was also posted on the NIRPC website along with the executive board materials. And I don't think Mitch is here, but Trey is here and he can answer any questions, if there are any, about the investment approach.
Thank you.
Staff also provided updates on the second round of the 2050 plan outreach, which focused on future impacts to the region and concluded on September the 1st. There is one action for consideration today. The Congestion Management, Mitigation, and Air Quality Performance Plan must be submitted to FHWA by October 1st. The report can be found on pages 15 through 19. Scott Weber will explain the plan.
Please draw your attention to page 15 through 19. This congestion mitigation air quality performance plan is required in NIRPC according to the FAST Act and subsequent US DOT federal rulemakings. The plan that you see starting on pages 16 through 19 is going to be attached to the INDOT CMAQ performance plan that they will be submitting by October 1st, which is the deadline. And so what it has is the background information about why this is required. Baseline condition performance section explains what the baseline conditions are from the previous calendar year for the traffic congestion measures and the previous federal fiscal year for the renewable source emissions measures, you can see those for your reference. 2-year and 4-year target section explains the 2-year and 4-year targets that NIRPC coordinated on with our partners INDOT as well as the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning CMAP and the Illinois Department of Transportation. And so these targets are reflective of that coordination. And then finally, the description of the project section at the end is a table listing of all the projects programmed in NIRPC's Transportation Improvement Program under the CMAC program, and how much what year they're obligated in, and how much they will reduce emissions by in kilograms per day for each of these emissions. See, and then finally, the last 2 columns in that table are whether or not that project can expect to see a benefit in peak hours excessive delay per capita and non-single occupancy vehicles traffic. Any questions?
Questions for Scott? There being no questions, the Technical Planning Committee recommends the adoption of the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Performance Plan. I will make it so.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. There you go.
An action on the project substitution and scope change policies will be sought at the full commission meeting in November. The next meeting of the Technical Planning Committee will be on October the 9th, 2018 at 9 a.m. at NIRPC. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next is that,
Sorry, can I just make a very quick comment? I just want to make a very quick comment about the, we didn't want to give you another presentation of the programming approach and the performance measures and all that sort of thing, but just the opportunity to ask some questions if you had any. Those are working their way through our entire committee structure, and I'm really proud of staff in the way they've taken a very innovative approach to how we will be doing or moving towards programming that will be much more transparent, predictable, etc. So that's all getting vetted through the committee structure, but just to explain why we didn't go into a presentation today. It'll get here eventually through our processes, but it's good work, and your committees are looking at it very carefully.
Thank you. Next is Legislative Committee. Mary Tanis.
I'd like to invite the members of the Legislative Committee to our meeting on October the 9th. First thing that we're going to be talking about are a report from AIM Summit, which is taking place in French Lick week after next. I hope that we can talk about some of the issues that are coming up in this legislative session. I did testify last week, Senate Bill 195, regarding the surviving spouse of some of our first responders, which is really important. And please follow that legislation to help out our first responders. The next thing I want to talk about is Carrie Coucher is giving the tree ordinance workshop, and she's an excellent presenter, and I would really encourage you, with all the street projects that are going on here in Northwest Indiana, it's really important that we have those ordinances in place, as well as helping us with stormwater. Stormwater is a big concern in our community, and I know we rely on trees to kind of help us out with our stormwater. So, thank you.
Thank you. Local Government Assistance Committee, well, doesn't seem to be here. So, assume no report.
They ended up not meeting last time, so.
Okay. Next is Rick Powers, report of the INDOT. How are you this morning?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Suffering from a little dry voice, so thanks, Mary, for allowing my opening here. Actually, a few things. I wanted to say thanks to Terry for a couple things. Actually, I met him a couple meetings ago. I remember when I first started here, he believed in 3.5 years working with the band.
Talking about quick.
I hope you enjoyed the audition. But I remember the discussions about the bridge. And I said, Terry, this would be a group that would be here for you.
Yes.
I'm sure it was very well produced and it was a great presentation. Second to that is, I'm already bringing, I don't know if you do that, a little station in Nago, excuse me, in that South Norfolk, Chesapeake area, that can just be read and sent to the Jordan Bridge many times for that thing to lift and good stuff. So, and I was also there this last summer, seeing some of the work, so good job. Glad to see you today, glad to see what you're doing in Chesapeake, and just good luck with it. Godspeed. That being said, and just overall improvements, I think in infrastructure, the article in Northwest Times wrote, to me, affirms, become one of my heroes, Representative Soliday, the political courage that they showed in providing the funding they did in the last session, and the things that are on the horizon for improvement, what we're doing in Indiana for all Hoosiers, and the very things that are being addressed in that article. Things that we've known. I wasn't here when Indiana was discussed and fought through and accepted, and we were ready to break ground. If you might recall, Indiana was prepared, funded, and ready to put a shovel in the ground. Life changed, and those problems now that would have relieved, that are somewhat addressed in this article, are still out there. And we are still faced with them as an agency, and I would say this group as a body as well. The Borman is there. I think I said this within a meeting or two ago. And we are now looking at alternative solutions, electronic solutions. I mentioned some modeling in Michigan and so on that we went through. But we can get there without help if we have to. We hope we don't have to. I'd like to see that revisited. I'd like to see congestion and relief and all of those things take place. But you know there are things that are taking place. As I'm sitting here, 20 is undergoing major renovation, 30 is on our forecast. So some of the very roads that are mentioned, 65 is adding capacity. We are working with locals constantly. In fact, excuse me, we just are working on Broadway. We just heard a presentation earlier, somebody speaking earlier on Broadway. And I just absolutely appreciate the relationship with the locals that I've had. Often you thank me, mayors, President Freeman Wilson, thank you for what you've done in Gary. And just how you've done to partner with us in some of the aging infrastructure underneath our infrastructure, some of the sanitary or combined sewer systems that we've had to deal with, partnering to get through with that. Americans very recently delayed or has a project delayed because they're not ready to fund what's buried beneath our infrastructure. So we went out and did an overlay to get us there. Those are the type of things I'd like to see and enjoy about becoming members. When I sit with the mayors, and I see Representative Soliday and all the people that I get to partner with every day and see the victories. But I'm also reminded of a couple of weekends ago, I saw my nephew who was somewhat of a rock star in the St. Louis area. And they write a lot of original music, and I was sitting there and I kind of like rock, and they were like playing. And there was this guy that was like standing there the whole time. Every time they start a song, this guy was standing in the middle of this like dance floor. People were dancing everywhere and just having a great time. The guy finally says, for the love of God, Johnny Cash covered 9 Inch Nails. Can't you play this song live? Whatever. And I sat there laughing, and then the guy, I remember my nephew saying, it doesn't matter what you play or what you cover, you're not going to please him. And I'm in that band. I'm in that band. And that's okay, that's okay, because I play the instrument I play as well as I can. I try to play in concert with you, and I hope I am doing that as well as I can. So, I know I've heard from Mayor McDermott, when we first met, we had a representative, again, become one of my heroes, and many of you in the audience, and some of the consulting firms here, quite frankly, that I know of in the 3.5 years I've been here, it's finally happening where I'm becoming mayor and up in Northwest Indiana. It's almost living. It's Bernard who lived here, we grew up here, beginning to understand the challenges of South Lake County development that we talked about and what those trade issues are that we need to deal with. But as we partner with these things and we try to move forward, we're going to have to do it together. NDOT does not have the answer. We've been given many tools to develop answers, but it's going to do, community crossings was a huge win for locals. Local tracks is coming, it's a huge win. As I see these things happening, it makes me feel good inside. And it's not done yet, but it's going to get done. And it's getting done because we're sitting here and we put forth somewhat political courage, our own courage to say maybe even sometimes what I feel. I want to say more, quite frankly. I'm not going to, but I want to. That being said, believe it or not, the corn's turning, the beans are turning, it's going to start snowing soon. Orange barrels are going to be replaced with white snow, and our plows will be running. So we're doing those things. So again, if you could, and if you would be so gracious as to say, NDOT is hiring drivers for the winter. We're bringing them on this year at $16 an hour, which is $1 more than last year for seasonal CDL. So again, if you would put that plug in for us, I would appreciate it. Also, in that very area, we were talking earlier about the partnership with the area. What happened last meeting, I believe there were some ADA concerns relative to ramps. We went out, we had to tie in some ADA. As you know, oftentimes we're retrofitting accessibility needs into sidewalks that pre-exist. Sidewalks were part of the project, hence the tie-in issues. So we went back, we readdressed some of those points, and tried our best to, I guess, mitigate what we can in that area. And it is an improved area for accessibility overall. Absent doing the entire sidewalks, which we did a curb-to-curb project. I don't think we're going to get better than where we are, but we're still evaluating some of those areas of transitions to the old infrastructure. Beyond that, I don't have anything to share. Something. Sorry, I was so long. No, it's fine. Representative.
Rick, could you just, probably everyone knows, but when we did this experimental thing for at-grade crossings, which is probably going to yield us about 120 million, most of those at-grade crossings are in northwest Indiana, and the safety is always first, but the primary purpose was congestion. So can you remind us of what the closing dates for applications are and so forth? I think that's active right now.
Actually, I think it's closed.
It just closed.
It's closed, and I think we're doing the announcement.
I thought the local tracks were, I'm sorry, something was sold until the 28th, I believe.
Was it the 20th of September?
Local tracks are closed.
Local tracks is closed. We're announcing the award. The awards, I think, are being announced, not closed.
Okay.
That's, we talked about the last one. I want to say, it is closed.
We just, whenever we get to the next phase, if you didn't apply, we need to make that successful.
Very much so.
Because I just was driving in Tom's town and was waiting impatiently at a double crossing and great community. It's just the amount of traffic, particularly industrial traffic, and it gets held up by the South Shore and the various railroads that come through here. It hurts economic growth. It hurts people's ability to get where they're going.
And again, represented, it's my hero. I hope the fund will perpetuate. So it was just at the MPO, friends to the east of us who also find it very popular and have input a pretty substantial number of projects that they're hoping for award. So as we go forward, I would agree. I would encourage everyone to keep pointing away at this until we get those at-rates taken care of.
Hopefully, NDOT will follow the process that is not based on who you know, but on what the numbers are. So it's, as we watch Northwest Indiana grow, we watch what the forum is trying to do, moving people and goods is absolutely key to a growing economy. And just because of the lake, we're, state the obvious, we're constrained by at-grade crossings and our arterial structure. So.
Rick, to be clear, week from Friday, it's week lots of closings, week from Friday. 28.
Is it closing or the announcement?
The closing of it. The last all projects began, we'll close on Friday the 28th.
I was just going to say, I know I personally wrote 3 or 4 support letters for applications. I put Charles on the spot, but do you have a sense of how many, or Trey, how many applications do you know of that the region submitted?
Northwest Indiana had 6 of the 36 applications. So 6 communities have applied for those, the local tracks grants. I don't know the timeline beyond it. I know they are kind of, NDOT is looking and talking with some communities. I don't know the extent of that is, but they have scheduled some site visits, what we meet.
Yeah. I don't know if this would go to you, but Mr. Hollenbeck may be able to answer it. I was in Valpo Saturday for my granddaughter's soccer game, and on Joliet they were putting some sort of stuff down, and on the side of their truck it said Pavement Solutions, and they laid this stuff down, and then within an hour you could drive on the road and it kind of looked like it was semi-paved. Do you have any idea what that is?
Well,
Sorry, that doesn't fall under the city.
Okay, but I was impressed with what they did. And I figured I could get an answer here.
I'm sorry.
I'll try and find out.
That's great. Yes.
Mr. Carnington had asked last month about the status of state route 80 to the east of La Crosse. And I was wondering, since we're heading to the end of September, does that project look like it's on track to finish this month?
Yeah, to be clear, last I heard, talking about the last meeting, they're expecting by the end of next week, as soon as that should be reopened, if not a few days more, but right around the end of September, maybe early October, but last I heard, the end of September was still good. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. You can stick around as far as we're all concerned. Done a good job. Any other commission business? Jim?
Yes, I had I wanted to make a comment about our committee structure. I would like to thank the executive director for sending out the current committee structure along with the duties and the responsibilities of each committee. That was much appreciated. When the new committee structure was proposed and passed by the commission 2 years ago, as chair, I had the privilege of putting the new process into place. There would be growing pains, and several of them were immediately addressed. Areas of uncertainty and complete understanding of purpose remain to some degree. The 2040 and 2050 plans have clear goals and objectives. These can only be put into effect through a continuing understanding of the goals and objectives through each committee. In any organization, internal controls apply not only to the financial operations, but also to the work of the committees. Unclear or dysfunctional internal controls of the committee structure will eventually provide for varying application of the goals and objectives of NIRPC. The shift of money management responsibilities from staff to the Transportation Resource Oversight Committee was a godsend. There were worries and concerns expressed about that action at that time. T-ROC has specific responsibilities. The only flaw, or possible flaw, is in the lack of a requirement for an elected official to sit on that committee. This revision could be a vehicle to provide internal controls. Truly, there is a growth curve to be traveled in any new committee structure. Hopefully, this advisory committee will eventually live fully up to its purpose. There's no need to go back to the way things were. Thank you.
Thank you. Other commission business? Aaron?
The town of Dyer's town council was very involved in our transit-oriented development in our area. And one of our main concerns, as part of our responsibility with NIRPC, is Main Street. We have to have a 4-lane highway going into Illinois underneath the bridge. Because right now, Illinois, believe it or not, has done their part with Door Road. It's 4 lanes right now. We have to have those 4 lanes continuing into Illinois to help with a lot of our congestion problems. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, next, announcements. Bob?
All right. Lake County Solid Waste Household Hazardous Waste will be conducted 2 more times for anybody in Lake County that needs to dispose of them. The next one will be Saturday, October 13th in Griffith at the Public Works. And the last one will be in Hammond on the 27th at the Hammond Public Works. So anybody in Lake County, it's your last opportunity to dispose of household hazardous waste.
Okay. Any other announcements? Hearing none. Next meeting. The next meeting is currently scheduled for October 18th, 2018. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Done. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.